Welcome to Spirit Club, a podcast and community where we talk about what's really running the show, your inner world. I'm Angel, your host, your guide, and your spiritual bestie. Around here, we're all about doing the inner work because your outer reality is only ever a reflection of what's going on within. We practice radical ownership, freedom in faith, surrendering our path to God, and trusting our intuition like our lives depend on it. Because honestly, they do. So take a breath, open your heart, and let's dive in. Hey, Spirit Club. Welcome back. And today we're going to talk about unplugging. Unplugging from, we'll say social media today, but because I think that's what's going to apply to most of us, but you will know what the thing you need to unplug from is. So it might be the news, it might be podcasts, it might be, you know what I mean? It's like some sort of content that you are plugged into that you know you might need a break from. And I'm going to talk about this because I recently took a break, about 6 weeks off of social media. And so I'm going to talk about it from my personal experience and what I've learned. But I'm also, I talked to God about it. I sat with God, sat with higher consciousness about it to just get a higher perspective on what it is that we need to know and hear with respect to what we're plugged into. So like I said, I just took like a 6-week-ish break from social media, specifically Instagram and YouTube, because those were the things that I was most plugged into, mostly because that's where my business lives. And I felt the call, and I've felt the call numerous times in my life since becoming a content creator, which has now been 7 years. I can't believe that. And I'm sure you've all felt the call before to unplug. And sometimes we feel the call to do this for things like sugar or alcohol or caffeine. It's just anything that we might be starting to get an unhealthy relationship to. And so that's when it's nice to take a little break and just check in on that relationship and making sure that it's for our highest and greatest good. And like I said, I've taken various breaks consciously before, and in each one, I learned something different. In each one, there's something new revealed to me. So by no means will this episode cover everything. If you are feeling called to take a break, this might be your sign. And these may be some of the things you experience, but you may experience a whole other learnings, downloads, lessons, which I look forward to hearing about. And so, and I also want to say that for me, going offline was not a hard thing to do. And I know that that's different for everyone. And it probably was different at different times in my life. But someone the other day asked me on Instagram, how I did it, if I had a protocol I followed, all this sort of thing. And I was sort of taken aback by the question because for me, it wasn't hard in that way to cut myself off from it. I think maybe because I have a business on it. And so for me, in a lot of ways, social media is like work. But I know that it's different for everyone. For some of us, social media is the way that we connect. And so the idea of taking a break might feel scary because it might feel lonely. And then for many of us, and myself included, it can be a big dopamine hit that we're getting constantly. And, that dopamine hit can be more important to some than others based on, I don't know, based on your internal chemistry. I don't really know. But if you're getting a lot from that dopamine hit every day, then removing it would be like, I don't know, borderline like quitting smoking. So of course you're going to be afraid and need some sort of protocol. So I don't have that for you today because my protocol was like hide it somewhere on my phone and stop using it. But I think there are many people out there that have like come up with tricks and stuff. So I don't have that to offer. I have the learnings and these sort of higher teachings from God. So let's get into it. So for me, I've got 8 things I've learned. We'll see if I come up with more as I talk. So the first thing that I noticed very quickly was once you unplug, once you put your phone down, you start to see how often everyone is on their phones. And I say that without judgment because clearly I was right there with everyone and then I put my phone down. It's like that meme. I'm sure you guys have seen it where like, oh, the wife or the girlfriend scrolls for a while and then she puts her phone down and she's like, stop looking at your phone. You're always on your phone to her partner. But yeah, I just like immediately was very conscious to how much everyone was on their phones. And at that particular time, my parents were visiting, and obviously I live with Shane, and I'd just be sitting there and everybody would be on their phones, and you're like, wow, this is scary. And so, we don't know what we don't know, and we don't know what we're missing out on when we are on our phones all the time. And I'm sure part of you might be thinking, well, what am I missing out on if I don't go on my phone? Yeah, I don't know. Sure, maybe. But I think more this community, we are interested in this present moment and what it has to offer us here. And our phones can take us away from that. So that was very revealing and very scary. Secondly, one of the first things that was very obvious once I unplugged was I had energy that returned to me. And it returned in the format of I suddenly had energy to do things that I had been putting off, things that I procrastinate on, things like little adulting things that I'm like, no, I don't want to do this. Scroll. Like I would always use social media as a way to not do those things. And so once I put that down, I suddenly had this new energy to like call the CRA. And for those of you who don't know, that's Canada Revenue Agency. Like do tax related things, make certain phone calls I didn't want to make, sign up for things, change my address here, like just little adulting things that I was like, I don't want to do that. Let me push that down the road 6 months. So that was cool. And also a great way to end out the year, like kind of checking things off my to-do list that I was like maybe never gonna do. So that was beautiful. And I mean, I imagine, so now that I'm back on, I've only been on for a few days, but I'm really holding to some strong boundaries, hoping to hold for them for a long time. So I'm still really limiting my time with social media. And I have found now that I'm not hosting, I was hosting for the past almost month. Now that I'm not hosting, I'm having energy to do things in my business, do things that are more like working on my business rather than working with clients. And it's really exciting. So yeah, it's just something to sit with of like, where could that energy be put that I don't even know right now when I'm plugged in? Okay, third realization I had was I experienced boredom. You guys. I can remember when I lived in Calgary and I was super busy and every second of every day was filled with productivity. I used to pray for boredom. So thank you, God, for answering my prayers, honestly. And probably since I moved here to Greece and life has slowed down and the pace has slowed down, boredom has probably crept in and I was filling it with social media. And I was filling it with doing. And so this period of taking a break and unplugging really showed me like, we will always have things to do, right? All of us. You can always find things that you have to do, especially if you're an entrepreneur or like a parent or something like that, where it's like a job that doesn't go off. And I can't be spending every quiet moment filling it with doing, filling it with social media. So I really just sat in the boredom. I let boredom be boredom. And I let boredom inspire presence, inspire connection, inspire inspiration, inspire creativity. I just let boredom do what boredom does best. So that was beautiful, and I'm really grateful for that. Okay, next thing I learned, this one was like, whoa, this one was surprising. And that is, I realized how much social media, specifically Instagram, was quietly triggering my wounds around my body. So I've talked on here before about how working through, I've had to do a lot of work on how I feel about my physical body. A lot of shame, a lot of judgment, a lot of attempts to control. It's been one of those things that I've been working on my whole life, and it always kind of comes up again and again. And at one point during my 6-week break, I opened Instagram to like quickly grab a recipe that I had saved to use over Christmas. And I'm telling you, I opened it for 5 seconds, and the first thing that came up was, a woman I follow who makes great high protein, low calorie recipes. And like 5 seconds of seeing her body, the recipe she was making, I was immediately like triggered, and I was immediately like feeling feelings of shame for how I'd been eating, feeling feelings of judgment about my body. And I put the phone down and I was like, whoa, I did not know. I didn't know how much that was happening in a micro way every day that I went on social media. I didn't know because it was so normal. And I realized how much better I was feeling in my own skin in that break from social. So this could be different for every one of us. Yeah. And this kind of came up in one of the teachings from God. So we'll talk about this again in a broader sense. Okay, next thing that came to me. So since I've moved to Greece, I've been patiently/impatiently waiting for some clarity to come through, waiting for God to show me some next steps with respect to my calling and my mission. And is it a coincidence? I don't know, but that clarity came through during this time that I was unplugged. And there are lots of things going on that would support that clarity, and maybe the timing was just perfect, but it did have me thinking, like, when we're plugged in to influence, are we able to hear what we're meant to hear for our own path and our own messages? Are we aware? Are we as open to clarity that could be coming through? And then this one was interesting. So I thought that by taking the break from social media, as a person who creates content, and I create a lot of content every week through my various channels, I thought that taking a break would inspire more creativity and inspire more authentic creativity. But in fact, it did not. So this one I'm still sitting with, but I didn't feel creative at all. Um, and, I was hosting for like 4 of these 6 weeks. So perhaps it's because my energy was involved elsewhere. But, I did notice that, like, for me and the way that I am creative, and I'm sure this is different for everyone, I am inspired by others, and I do my own spin. I take inspiration and I create. But without the muse, without the inspiration, I wasn't really like feeling like creating. And in this 6-week period, I also mostly wasn't working with clients. Most of my clients had wrapped up in those first 2 weeks. So for me, the inspiration sometimes comes from the content that I take in. So that's one way in which being plugged in or having social media supports me. And like, for example, You guys know I love fashion, love fashion. And a lot of the time I get inspiration for outfits. I like remake them my own by what I've seen, something that I've liked. I pull from here and I pull from here. And without having those inputs, would I be as inspired to create from a fashion standpoint? I don't think so. So that was interesting. And then there are some good things too. So when I came back on a couple days ago, and I didn't really want to. Like, it was hard to get myself to plug back in. I do have a business and I do have a mission that I think requires a presence and like, I want a community and an engaged community. And so I came back on, and the response was so beautiful. I received a lot of messages with you guys telling me that you missed seeing me and my stories and my content, and that you're happy to reconnect on there again. And I was like, oh, it was this like really in my body, this feeling of like, oh, this is the good part. This is the point. This is the light. And so I just like really leaned into those connections, and I just really received what you are all giving to me. And I thank you so much for that. So that was really beautiful. Okay, and then the last learning, and this one kind of came on the other side of coming back, is around validation. So, I put out a lot of content, Instagram, YouTube, emails, blah, blah, all the things. And I had become a bit addicted to like looking at my metrics. And so taking a break from that was really nice, just not knowing how my content did. I still put out podcasts while I was on the break, and just not seeing how the podcast was doing and all that sort of thing. And so we'll talk about validation in a minute when I talk about some of the messages I receive from God. Because validation, it's like there's a fine line between what helps us and what hurts us. But for me, coming back, I've just realized like, I don't need to check how a piece of content is doing 5 times a day. No, I don't. What good is that doing? Do I need to check once in the life of that content? Sure, because that's going to inform me what's supporting you, inform me as to what works, and that's the way that it's helpful. So just some like boundary around validation. Okay, so those were my personal learnings. Maybe you could take something out of them. Maybe they inspired something for you. But I really also wanted to look at this topic, unplugging, social media, content, all that sort of thing, from in a broader sense. And so I sat in meditation around it and connected to God, to higher consciousness, and just received, what do we need to know? What would support all of us? So I've got 5 messages here. So the first thing I received was the reminder that, like everything, social media has both a light and a shadow side. And the light side is connection, inspiration, expansion, beauty, love. And the shadow side is division, hate, judgment, shame. So this is encouraging us all to, whether you take a break or you just do an audit, but check in on what it is that you are plugging into. Is it the light side or is it the shadow side? And how do I check in? Well, you watch your content and you see how you feel. What is it inspiring in you? Is it inspiring like division? Is it making you separate from your brothers and sisters? Like, what is it making you feel and do? And then you might want to consider unplugging from the shadow side. And it may also be really helpful here to, before you even go in to check on and audit what you are plugged into, set your intention around social media, or set your intention about what the things that you do plug into. So what is my intention in being on social media? My intention is to connect and to be inspired. And then if you know that's your criteria, then go through who you follow, what you watch, and is it bringing you what aligns with your intention? If it doesn't, unfollow, block, whatever it is. Okay, so first message was, like everything, social media, or what the content that we're plugging into, has both a shadow and light side to it. Second message is, what what are you avoiding feeling by scrolling? Loneliness, boredom, a tough conversation, a tough decision. So we turn to many different things when we don't want to feel our feelings. And social media is just one of those. It could also be food or an addiction, alcohol, something like that. But just looking at, what am I avoiding feeling? And like I was telling you guys, I was avoiding feeling boredom, the discomfort of boredom. But for you, it might be something different. And it's what we're being encouraged to do here is, before we avoid the feeling, and therefore that feeling will get lodged and become something much bigger than it is meant to be, but get lodged in your body, in your emotional body, physical body. Before you do that, consider sitting with the feeling. And what does that mean? Okay. When I go to pick up my phone, I then, before I start scrolling, I think, okay, is there anything I'm avoiding feeling right now? Oh, maybe you just had a difficult conversation with your partner and it pissed you off and you picked your phone up and you started to scroll. Okay. Maybe I just need to sit with, like, what was that triggering inside of me, and just sit with it, be with it. You don't have to change it. You just have to feel it. And I think, based on the conversations I've been having on this podcast for the past couple of months, feeling our feelings is coming to the foreground. So let's not allow the things we plug into to take us away from that. Okay, third message is to be careful of comparison. So, especially this community, many of you are meant to walk your own path, and therefore comparison holds you back. Comparison can trigger you to doubt your path. It can trigger you to stay small. It can trigger you, I'll have you lose your courage. So really be careful, because it can be very sneaky, similar to how I was telling you guys about how I had no idea of how some of the accounts I was following, who I considered to be inspiring accounts around body and eating, were actually triggering my wounds around my own body and making me make different choices and feel differently than I authentically feel. So this can be different things for different people, like one of my best friends the other day shared with me how, she's a musician and a talented one. And she shared how she listened to a fellow musician's music and how it had her starting to doubt herself, starting to feel like, oh, maybe what am I doing going down this path? She turned it around. She had actually, let me see what she said, because it might help all of you. She said she had to remember that it's not that they were at different places on the same path, but that they were on different paths. So maybe we can all use this in some way. But yeah, just remembering that, like, comparison is so, so dangerous because of that reason, because we are not all on the same path, especially you guys who are listening to this podcast. You are not. You are pioneers for a different path. And social media is going to be showing you the mainstream. And so maybe you're going to see someone buying a house, and here you are thinking, like, I don't really want house ownership. I'm kind of feeling like traveling the world, living nomadically. Then you're seeing all this house ownership, and then you're going, maybe I should stop what I'm doing and buy a house. So just being really aware and careful of that, because it can be sneaky. Okay, fourth message from higher consciousness was around validation. So validation is tricky because I almost want to use two different words. There's validation, which isn't actually helping us, and there's confirmation, which is. So let's talk about the format that's not helping us. So if you post and then you are looking to receive a certain kind of response, this is showing you where you are insecure, not confident, and have some healing to do. So this can be different for all of us. So, maybe you post a picture of yourself and you're hoping people tell you how good you look or how thin you look. Okay, so this is mirroring to you where you don't believe, you don't feel good about your body. So some work that you have to do to build that within yourself, because you're looking to receive it from outside yourself. And listen, you never will. Like, even if you receive it, it's never going to fill you and be enough. Or maybe you are posting an idea and you're looking for validation of that idea. Well, then you are likely, you don't believe in that idea yet. So it's a risky thing to be doing. Or maybe you are posting and you're hoping a bunch of people tell you how inspiring you are. Well, then you don't believe in yourself. And so there's some work around believing in yourself that needs to be done. So validation can really just be like a flag for us for some healing that we have to do. And that's how we can look at it. And just being careful of trying to get that validation on social media. You never will. You never will. Even if you get it, it will not fill you. It will not fill you. Now, the good side of validation that I'm going to term confirmation for now is if you are learning something or trying something new, you might look to your community, you might look to social media for support. So this is like, it's less emotionally charged. It's more like trying a theory, testing a theory. So if you are learning or trying something and you're using Instagram to learn and try something, and you're looking to receive some feedback from the audience, this is actually helpful. I can remember when I was learning how to use my intuitive gifts and I was doing readings, I was doing free readings. If I didn't receive feedback from the people that I was reading, I don't think I would have grown at all. Like, I needed that external feedback to understand what it is I was learning, what it is I was developing. So you can see this showcased in social media in various ways. As a content creator, I will do it to try different types of content. So for example, speaking to camera or like animating a clip or something like that, I will put it out there. I will see how the audience responds to see, okay, is this something that we like, that we need? Is this the type of content that this community is looking for? And so that's more of like a looking for confirmation or feedback versus validating something I'm missing inside myself. Okay, I hope that made sense. And then the final message from God was just a reminder to consider your time, your attention, and your energy as valuable, as a valuable resource. Okay, and if I consider my time, my attention, and my energy as valuable, does a stranger on the internet or a news outlet or a company deserve that much of my valuable time, attention, and energy? Just something to consider. What does deserve it? And just like I was telling you about the energy that returned to me when I took a break, energy that I'm putting out, scrolling and wasting my valuable time, my valuable energy, can now be put into creating, into being present in my beautiful life, into doing things I enjoy, Those things deserve my valuable time, energy, and attention. So, just something for us all to keep as a larger frame of mind. Okay, that's it for today. So whether this episode inspires you to take a break or simply to do some auditing to bring some more awareness and consciousness around where you are plugged in and how you consume, I hope that it supports you. Until next time.